Hello and welcome back to 3 Martini Launch Plays Kerbal Space Program. I am 3 Martini Launch and I am playing Kerbal Space Program. This is a new series. Should only be 2, 3, I think actually 4. I'll only make 4 episodes out of this series. We'll call it the Jewel Challenge. A buddy of mine challenged me to get as much science as possible from a single launch from the Kerbal Space Center. So I'm making a rather large ship for that single launch, and I'm going to show you some of the individual modules I'm going to be putting on there. It's going to launch up and have 2 of these little puppies on it, and these are capable of going to the moon and Minmus and collecting science from them. I'm also going to have 2 of these slightly larger that I'm hoping we'll be able to make it to one of them will go to Duna and one will go to Eve and collect science. And you notice they don't have the Science Junior, they don't have the goo canister. They're just going to be getting crew reports and then these other science thingy-bobbers on there. I'm going to have a couple of these. These are going to look, let me flip this over. They don't actually look familiar, but they're purposely familiar if you watched my last series, the March through the Tech Tree. They're a couple of probes, or in this case I'm going to have 2 of them. They each have a Science Junior and a goo canister, and then the other experiments, and they're going to parachute into Lathes atmosphere. When I did it for the March through the Tech Tree, I had 3 of these, but I just don't have room to put 3 of these puppies on there, so just the 2. Finally, I'm going to, well, not finally, but second to finally, I'm going to have, again, this should look fairly familiar to you, the Universal Lander, and I actually made some modifications to it. It doesn't have this. I wound up going another way. And then it's got a one of these little robot brains stuck in there. And other than that, it's very similar to the lander that was in the Jewel system. And this one is going to do the same thing. It's going to go to as many bodies as possible and land on them and get science in the Jewel system. And finally, we've got the pusher that's going to push that lander around the Jewel system. I think this one looks a little smaller than the one I was using at the March through the Tech Tree, but I went through the math and decided this should be big enough for all the pushing needs through the Jewel system and be able to get the Kerbals back home that make it to Jewel system. So, let's see how I put all these things together. I call it the Master Craft. I'll probably rename that once I get it up into orbit. And come on, get loaded there. We'll start from the top. You can see I've got that pusher and the lander, and I've got this science station that's going around Jewel, and it's going to have one of those large, really big fuel tanks. Hopefully most of this fuel is going to be left over. That's the plan. And then of course the launcher to get it up there. And you can see I've got those excursion ships there for the moon, Minmus, Duna, and Eve. I got the little probes here for Lathe. They've got 2 Kerbals going to be going to Jewel system. Yeah, you need 2 to operate that laboratory there, and then of course the lander and the pusher. Anyway, so this is going to be the heaviest thing I've ever tried to launch into orbit. Let's see what it weighs. This is what's going into orbit. 158 tons. I think this is by far the biggest single payload I've ever attempted to put into Kerbin's orbit. So anyways, let's get out of the launch pad and see if this is even possible. And here we are on the launch pad. Let's see if... But before we try to get it off the ground, again, I want to maximize science from a single launch. So I'll put a few extra Kerbinauts on there, and they're going to jump off and get some science. There's 11 science there. And who's coming off next? Bill or Bob, or... He's going to go ahead, and it was like a pachinko machine as he falls off the rocket ship, and he's going to run out to the the Kerbal Space Center rather than the launch pad, and go ahead and get some readings, and then finally back to let again the other Bill or Bob, I don't know which one it is, come fall out of there, and he's just going to run out and position himself to run towards the runway sometime later on. We want to get on with the launch. So let's see. Oh yeah, we got some. Get all that science from the launch pad, and then launch. Oh, we got off the ground. 1,029 tons of fury, and there we go. Separating off that first pair for the asparagus staging, and then we'll go ahead and make the gravity turn. And I think we'll have the second pair dropping off there real soon as well. There we go. And everything seems okay. It actually flew pretty stable. I was a little surprised. I expected a lot more wobbliness in there. Anyways, we get up to 125,000 meters, and I go ahead and circularize there. And I'm sure I'm picking up science here and there along the way. But I'm going to go ahead and eject those excursion ships, the ones going to the Moon, Minmus, Duna, and Eve. And there's the first one separating. And we'll go ahead to the next one, get it separated. And I think I'm actually going to walk you through all four of these getting separated. Got to keep them separated. Anyways, there goes another. It's one of the larger excursions destined for Duna or Eve. I haven't decided yet which one's going where. Don't know which one's which. And likewise, there's one of the smaller excursion units coming out. That one's Aldous. That one's going to Minmus. I know that much. Desky is going to the Moon. We'll go ahead and get a screenshot. There we go, Desky on that one. And again, he picked up a lot of science already around Kerbin orbit. He's going to go ahead and we're going to set up an encounter there for the Moon. That looks pretty good. And once I get that one taken care of, I want to go ahead and I want to be in a polar orbit because I want to be able to cross all the biomes on the Moon. I'm just going to do this from low orbit. And actually, I got that gravioli detector on there. It works both low orbit and high orbit. So it'll be a low orbit, go ahead and get all the science, and then go ahead and do it from high orbit once again. And you wind up with quite a bit of science. No Science Junior, no goo canister, just the regular measuring tools, the ones that don't have to be reset. You have to climb out and grab the science off of them. But I only need to recircularize in that orbit. I also go ahead and line it up so one part is there at the sun. So I'm always have one part on the sunny side of the Moon, so I can see what's going on. I also installed a new mod. The buddy of mine that posed the challenge also posed. He said that science monitor mod. I forgot what it's called. Anyways. It tells you when you're flying over a science area, and if you got all the science from the biomes that you're looking for, it's awesome. Anyways, I go ahead. I'm telling MechJeb to land for me. Now, I think I'm only gonna be doing one landing on the Moon. I don't have enough fuel for more than the one. You can see that takes me down to, it looks like 1,377 meters per second delta V. If you were more skilled than I am, you could probably get landing in one more biome, but I don't feel like risking it. I'm going to go ahead and take off. And you can see it gets me up to orbit with 500 and some odd. So I'm probably better off. It takes a couple of hundred to get back from, or maybe 100 or something to get back from the Moon. And here I am coming back from the Moon. Go ahead and set up that maneuver node so that the Kerbal alarm clock can tell me when I'm 500,000 meters out. And we go ahead and land down. Now again, I topped out a lot of the actual science collecting, but you'll see all the science that I actually collected on the recovery report. But there's like 15 biomes on the Moon, and you can get crew and EVA reports from all of them, the gravioli from all of them in low orbit. You go into high orbit, the gravioli goes again, and it's like 60 per biome, times 15, times 2, and then plus all the other reports. It's just, even without the Science Junior and goo canister, there's without landing, there is a crap ton of science to be had on the Moon. And so let's just see how much there was. Go ahead and recover that craft. Oh, what do you know, 2,213.6 science. Add that to the reports that were already handed back by Jebediah and Bill or Bob. And I'm up already to 2,236. Haven't even left the Kerbin system, and Minmus is still up there. So let's go ahead and, for those of you who want to examine this, I go ahead and slowly page through the sciences that I pick up. You can see the graviola detector is 60 from high moon orbit and low moon orbit. So it's 60 times the 15 biomes is 900 times 2, because it was 1,800 just for that. In fact, I don't even think I got all the graviola from high orbit on this one. And head back to the one gentleman I parked on the whatever out of the lawn, and he's going to go ahead and pick up the stuff from the runway, bring me up to so far 2,247 signs. And we go over to the other excursion module with I forgot the name of whoever's on there, but eventually I did the same thing, set up an orbit, and then set that up to be a polar orbit. And this one looks like it's pointing more or less towards the sun. I may not have to monkey with it. Now, the game got a little confused and said, oh, no, you're not encountering the Minmus today, but then it changed its mind, and I'm back to encountering Minmus. Once again, do all the science, set up that polar orbit. Here I am, and I had some trouble with the last excursion module with fuel balancing, so I just told the fuel balancer to balance it for me. And again, we got that science monitor mod telling me what science that I'm eligible to pick up right here and now, and it's very handy. I just wish it had. It's a very cumbersome interface. I just wish it was a little bit easier to use. And after picking up all this stuff, I went from low orbit and high orbit for the graviola detector. I go ahead and set up a maneuver to bring me a little bit closer. I'm going to go ahead and drop down and land on one of those flats. Now, Minmus has a much lower gravity, so I'm able to actually do 3 or 4, maybe it was 5 landings in various biomes on Minmus. So I'm very pleased with the amount of science I'm able to pick up here. There's fewer biomes. I think there's only 9 biomes on Minmus, but each one is worth more points. Plus, I was able to do a lot more landings, so those surface samples really come in handy. I think they're worth like 150 points each for the surface samples. Anyways, go ahead and take off from that first location. And I'm smoking a cigarette this time. Don't be too mad at me. No cigar this time around. Anyways, go ahead and take off. I probably should have edited this down a little. Maybe I do edit it down. So I'm just going to try to land on the next biome over. And this time I'm doing it all, quote, all manually, not using MechJeb's landing guidance. I guess I am using the landing. Never mind. I'm not doing it manually. But I could have. You saw me land initially manually. Anyways, go ahead and get that science from this new location and take off and head to another. I think I'm going to go ahead and land on top of this area. I think it might be the Highlands up there, the Midlands, or maybe I was already on the Midlands. I don't really know. And once again, I just click the Land Anywhere button on MechJeb, and he goes ahead and lands me down. There we go. More science. One of the landings I forgot to record, so you might see me land one fewer time than there are biomes from which I'm collecting science. And go ahead and take off from there. And yeah, it looks like I was on some flats there. I think I did one more hop onto the flats and then hopped down over to these other flats. So it looks like 4 biomes from which I'm collecting surface samples. Not to mention that you get to use all 4 of the, you don't get to use the pressure, the barometer. So all 3 of the science gizmos on each landing. And here we go, taking off. And this time I think I'm taking off for good. And down to 1,000 meters per second delta V. Yeah, probably could have done one more. But I usually like to play it safe. Now I'm going to come into a polar orbit. Again, same idea. You can get those gravioli and EVA reports and crew reports above every single biome on Kerbin. But as it turns out, I was getting pretty tired. I got a few of the science reports said, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and land. So there's still plenty of science. Maybe one of the guys going to Eve or Dune will pick up the rest. I don't really know. Anyways, here we go, coming in, and again, more Oh my God, get every little scrap of science. Yeah, again, that's contradictory to what I just said about skipping all the science from high and low curve and orbit, but they haven't passed it up yet. It's still available to me. All right, go ahead and get out of the spaceship, get a surface sample there. What went with the Highlands? Plant a flag, samples from the Highlands. There we go, get back in and let's see. And we recover for 4,527 signs, bringing my total up so far to 6,775. Once again, go ahead and page through so everybody wants to see the various reports. Now, this ship did have a number of reports from the launch pad, from low atmosphere, high atmosphere, some from low orbit. So it had a bunch of extra reports. So you're not necessarily going to go to Minmus and pick up 4,500 signs. Again, there was a lot of stuff from Kerbin's local neighborhood. Anyways, that's part one. Be sure you tune in for part two. I'll be going to either Duna or Eve, whichever one comes up first on the alarm clock. If you like the video, like the video. If you don't like it anyways. Good night, everybody, and you too, Mrs. Miller.